I finally got approved for a mortgage after years of bad credit. My parents offered to help decorate. A month later, I came home to find my walls painted pink, my furniture replaced, and a sign over the fireplace that read, "Home Sweet or Home." My dad handed me a set of keys for them. "We sold our place. We're moving in," he said casually. "You owe us for everything we did raising you." I said no. They called a family meeting. Now everyone's saying I abandoned them in their old age. I've never written one of these before, but I need to get this out. Everything you're about to read is true. It happened last year, and I'm still unpacking it emotionally. I'm 38, grew up in Dayton, Ohio, lived here most of my life. I didn't grow up rich, but my parents weren't poor either. We lived in a 2-story home in a quiet neighborhood. My dad worked for a construction supply company. My mom was a school secretary. They worked hard. I'm not denying that. But they also never let me forget it. Everything I got growing up came with strings. A ride to practice? That was taking time out of their day. A new winter coat? You better take care of it, money doesn't grow on trees. They told me often that they gave up vacations, fun, and their social lives for me. And when I hit my 20s and started making mistakes, dropping out of school, racking up debt, they said, "After all we did, this is how you thank us." They used guilt the way some people use weapons. I'm not gonna sugarcoat it, I screwed up in my early adult life. I had bad credit for years. Dumb decisions. Took out payday loans. Stopped opening mail. I coasted on minimum wage jobs and bounced around rentals. But I turned it around slowly. I stopped using credit cards. Started working overtime. I did rideshare gigs on weekends. I kept my head down and paid off collections one by one. I skipped birthdays and dinners just to keep up. My parents knew I was struggling, but they never helped. Not even when I was living in a 1-bedroom apartment with no heat during one of the coldest Januaries on record. Then, last summer, I got approved for a mortgage. That feeling, walking out of that office with papers in my hand, knowing it was mine, I can't explain it. I cried in my car. I bought a small ranch-style home. 3 bedrooms, 1.5 baths, attached garage. Not fancy, but solid. It was all mine. I told my parents. They were thrilled, or so I thought. "We always knew you'd get it together," my mom said with that weird tone, like she was taking credit for it. My dad clapped me on the back. "Need help decorating?" he offered. I said sure. Innocent enough, right? I figured they'd help with curtains or maybe pick out a new rug. I made the mistake of giving them a spare key so they could let in the internet tech while I was at work one Friday. That was all they needed. When I came home that night, everything had changed. I stepped inside and just stood there, shocked. The walls had been painted a soft pink. Not just an accent wall, the whole damn living room. The floors were different too. Gone was the simple gray carpet I picked. Now it was cream and plush and clearly expensive. My dark brown leather couch? Gone. In its place was this pastel floral love seat and 2 dainty chairs that looked like they belonged in a bed and breakfast. There were throw pillows, candles, fake plants, and worst of all, above the fireplace was a large wooden sign that said, "Home Sweet or Home." I felt sick. I barely had time to process it when my dad walked in smiling. He tossed me a new set of keys. "These are for us," he said. "Figured it's easier if we all have a copy now." I stared at him. "What?" "We're moving in," he said. Like it was no big deal. "We sold our place this week. Didn't think we needed all that space anymore. You've got plenty of room here, and after everything we've done for you, it's only right." I thought he was joking, so I laughed. He wasn't joking. My mom came in from the kitchen. "You'll hardly notice we're here, sweetheart. And this way we can finally be a family again. You've been on your own too long." I told them no. Plain and simple. "No, you can't move in. This is my house." My mom's smile faded fast. "Excuse me? You didn't even ask," I said. "You just assumed." My dad's face turned hard. "After everything we did for you? This is how you repay us." I didn't yell. I didn't argue. I just told them they had to leave. Not later now. They didn't. They dug in. Stayed the night. Slept in the guest room. I tried to stay calm, said we'd talk in the morning. But by the next morning, the whole family knew. Uncles, aunts, cousins, everyone started calling me. Texts rolled in like a storm. You're seriously kicking out your parents? They gave you everything and you can't share a house. You're being cold and selfish. Turns out, my parents called a family meeting that I wasn't invited to. Told everyone they were homeless. That I threw them out. That I refused to care for them in their time of need. My phone didn't stop buzzing for 3 days. I didn't answer. Instead, I started planning. I knew I couldn't reason with them. They saw this house as theirs now. And they were experts at guilt. I had to beat them at their own game, but by playing smart, not angry. I didn't say a word to my parents for 3 days. Not a text, not a knock on their bedroom door. I went to work like normal, came home, went straight to my room. I barely ate. I wanted them to feel the silence. They acted like nothing was wrong. My mom would leave folded laundry on my bed like I was a kid again. My dad set up a little corner in the garage for his tools. They unpacked, made themselves at home. I even heard my mom on the phone with someone saying, "It's so nice to be back together as a family." They thought they'd won. That's when I started recording things. I set up a few cameras inside, legal in Ohio since it was my home and they weren't tenants. I had audio from conversations, video of them talking like the house was theirs. My dad even said once, laughing, he can't kick us out. He owes us his life. I printed out all my mortgage documents. Pulled copies of the title showing I was the sole owner. Gathered texts from my family where they criticized me, thinking I'd kicked out poor Rick and Diane. And then, the final piece, I made an appointment with a real estate attorney. Turns out, since my parents weren't on the lease, had never paid rent, and had only been there a few days, they weren't legal tenants. I could remove them without a formal eviction. But I didn't just want to remove them. I wanted everyone to see what they'd done. So I hosted a dinner. I told my parents I wanted to apologize and make things right. Then I invited the family. My mom beamed. That's the son I raised. I spent a full day preparing. Ordered catering. Cleaned the house top to bottom. Set the table. When the family arrived, my uncle, 2 aunts, 3 cousins, I greeted them calmly. I let my parents talk first. They played it up big. My mom even started crying at one point, saying we just wanted to be close to him again. We didn't mean to overstep. Then I stood up and hit play on the living room TV. I had edited together a 10-minute clip. Footage of them calling the house theirs. Of my dad bragging that I owed them. Of my mom tossing my old stuff out to make room for her tea set. Of them mocking me while I wasn't home. The room went silent. Then I passed around the legal documents. My name. My payments. My debt journey. My sacrifice. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't cry. I just said, they didn't ask. They took. And they lied to all of you. My aunt spoke first. Diane. What the hell? My mom just stared at the table. My dad's face was red. He opened his mouth. But I cut him off. You've got 48 hours to leave. After that, the police will be involved. I turned to my family. If you think that's harsh, you're welcome to take them in. No one offered. My parents moved into a motel 2 days later. Left behind most of their stuff. Now they want to talk again. But I'm not ready. Not yet. After they left, I thought it was over. I really did. I spent the next week slowly reclaiming my space. I painted over the pink walls. Hauled their floral furniture out to the garage. Ripped down that ridiculous "Home Sweet Our Home" sign and tossed it into the fire pit. I even started sleeping better. No more anxiety dreams. No more dread walking through my own front door. But then I started getting mail. Not for me. For them. Letters addressed to Rick and Diane started showing up. Medical bills. Change of address confirmations. Even a magazine subscription in my dad's name, Golf Digest. I called the post office and found out they had forwarded their mail to my house. Without asking. I was furious. I drove straight to the motel they were staying at. Walked in on them eating takeout in front of a TV and tossed a pile of their mail onto the bed. You need to stop redirecting your crap to my house, I said. My dad just looked at me. We figured it was still the easiest place. You don't live there, I snapped. Stop pretending you do. Then came the next twist. Actually, my mom said slowly, we might. I blinked. What? She pulled out her phone and showed me a screenshot of a letter. It was addressed to me. From the county office. I recognized it. It was one of the early documents I signed for property taxes. Except now, below my name, it said, Rick and Diane, my last name, joint residents. I felt my blood go cold. What did you do? I asked. They didn't answer. I went home and tore through my paperwork. At first, everything looked normal. But tucked inside a folder from when I'd closed on the house, I found a second set of copies. Fakes. They'd printed a duplicate of my closing paperwork and added themselves as co-residents, even forged my initials on one page. It wasn't official. Nothing legally binding, but it looked real. And that's when I realized what they were trying to do. If they could convince people they were legally tied to the home, they might be able to sue me for residency. Or, at the very least, make a big enough stink to drag me through a legal mess I couldn't afford. They were playing a long game. So I went back to my lawyer. She was as shocked as I was. But she helped me put together a full timeline. Real documents. Camera footage. Witness statements. Everything. She even suggested getting a restraining order if they pushed harder. But it didn't stop there. The next week, I came home from work and found my front door unlocked. I walked in, every hair on my body standing up. No one was inside. But someone had been there. A bag of groceries on the counter. My mom's favorite creamer in the fridge. The TV remote moved. The guest bed made up with fresh sheets. They still had copies of the keys. They were letting themselves in when I wasn't home. I changed the locks that night. Then I called the police. The officer was sympathetic. If they try it again, file a trespassing report. You've got enough here to start a record. I started locking my bedroom door, even though I was alone in the house. Every noise outside made me jump. They had tried to take over my home. And now, they were trying to take over my life. But I wasn't done fighting. I didn't sleep much after that. Every night I kept waiting for the sound of the front door. I even caught myself setting traps, moving objects near windows, leaving a glass by the back door. Anything to prove if they snuck in again. They never stopped. They didn't care about being caught. It wasn't about needing help. It was about control. I thought about moving, just walking away and starting fresh somewhere else. But that's what they wanted. They wanted me to give up. Instead, I made one final move. I filed a restraining order. It wasn't easy. I had to stand in front of a judge with my parents just a few feet away and lay everything out. The forced move-in, the forged documents, the illegal entry, the lies they spread. I showed the footage, the screenshots, the forged papers. My mom cried in court, said I was humiliating them. My dad sat stone-faced, like he didn't believe I'd go through with it. But I did. The judge granted it on the spot. 90 days. No contact. No visits. No stepping onto my property. If they did, I could press charges. I walked out of that courtroom shaking but calm. Then I went one step further. I mailed copies of everything to every family member who had attacked me before. My aunts, uncles, cousins. I didn't say a word. No long explanation. Just the proof. 2 days later, I started getting apologies. I'm sorry. I didn't know the full story. Your mom told us something completely different. If you need anything, let me know. I didn't respond. I didn't need their guilt. They all picked a side when it mattered, and it wasn't mine. Now here's where the revenge part really kicks in. The motel they were staying in, I found out they'd run out of money. They couldn't pay the tab. They were living off old savings and credit cards. When the 90-day order was almost up, my lawyer filed for an extension and served them notice that any more harassment would result in formal charges, and I'd pursue reimbursement for damages. They were broke, disgraced, and out of options. So they called me. My mom left a voicemail crying, said they were sleeping in their car. My dad emailed me asking if they could come just for a few weeks. I didn't answer. Instead, I contacted a local church's outreach center and gave them my parents' names. 2 adults. Homeless. No income. Looking for help. I knew they'd be embarrassed. I knew they'd be angry. But I didn't care. They crossed every line. Tried to hijack the one good thing I built for myself. I finally blocked their numbers. All of them. Even the extended family. You know what the real twist is? I still miss them. I miss the parents I thought I had. But not the ones who showed up uninvited and tried to steal my life. Not the ones who turned love into a weapon. Not anymore. So now, I sit in my house. In my living room. On the couch I chose. And every time I walk by the fireplace, I remember the sign they put up. Home sweeter home. I smile. And I whisper, not anymore.